She was 7 when she arrived. Her father had just died. Her mother, the only person left to support the family, couldn't afford to take care of her. They lived in deep poverty, barely enough for food, let alone school. And one day, without warning, she found herself in a different home. A home she didn't recognize. A home filled with strangers she didn't know. A place she couldn't even call home. Another boy came when he was 5. He brought a single teddy bear with him. He still has it today. His parents were addicted to substances and unable to take care of him. And one day, without warning, he found himself in a different home. A home he didn't recognize. A home filled with strangers he didn't know. A place he couldn't even call home. He's never met his parents, never spoke to them, and he probably never will. Another girl was just a couple of months old. Her mom had brought her there out of fear. She was running away from an abusive household and didn't know where else to go. That baby had a tiny bag of clothes with her, and she too found herself in a different home. That was 17 years ago, and that bag of clothes is gone now. But the weight of that story is still with her. These are real people, real lives, real stories. Real stories from an orphanage just 20 minutes away from here. But before I tell you how, I want to tell you why. I'm Adele, and I'm 18 years old. I've met these children, built a connection with them, spent time with them. For the past year, I've been working closely with children from different orphanages in Bali. But my story didn't start in an orphanage. It started in my house. My original Greenstone idea was to create a fashion brand, teaching people how to thrift flip their clothes and remake them into something beautiful. My mom and I even went all the way to Vietnam to get clothes made out of designs I had created. It would have been cool, creative, but one day my eyes opened up to a new reality. Someone who's been with my family for years, Sophie, shared her story with me. When she was young, her parents couldn't afford to take care of her. They lived in deep poverty, and one day, her parents had to make the impossible decision to place her in an orphanage. Not because they didn't care, but because they had no other choice. She grew up away from her family, but she's in touch with them now. And despite everything, there's still a connection. When she told me her story, something shifted, and I kept thinking about what she said. It was the first time I really understood that sometimes families break, not because they want to, but because they have no other choice. So I began to look deeper, and what I found made me stop everything and change direction completely. Poverty, lack of support, a system that separates instead of supports. That conversation was a seed. And once it was planted, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started researching, asking questions, wondering why this happens again and again and again, especially here in Indonesia. And even though my original Greenstone idea was something completely different, it didn't feel right anymore. Not when I know what I know now. This project couldn't be about clothes. It had to be about people, and it had to be about the truth. Most of the children living in orphanages in Bali have families. They have parents, but they were placed in orphanages because their parents couldn't take care of them. Not enough food, not enough money for basic needs, and not enough support. So families break, not because they want to, but because they're broken by something bigger. More than 80% of kids in Indonesia have living parents. That's a real statistic. Let that sink in. Most were placed there because of poverty, not abuse or neglect. A mother who gives her child away because she thinks it'll give her daughter a chance at a better life. A father who disappears, not because he doesn't love his family, but because the weight of poverty silences everything else. A system that quietly rewards separation while claiming to protect children. And it still keeps happening, not just because of poverty, but because of how the whole structure is built. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes it's kept alive by people who think they're helping. In Indonesia, most orphanages receive little to no financial aid from the government. They're usually independent foundations surviving on donations, foreign aid, and tourism. The more children they have, the more money they attract. More sympathy, more photos, and more volunteers. Some orphanages won't send kids home, even when they could, because the image of a full orphanage pays. This has created what some call the orphanage economy, where children become assets, not individuals. Volunteerism fuels it, with well-meaning travelers paying to visit and take photos, unknowingly reinforcing a system that benefits from keeping children institutionalized. And while the government sees it happening, it rarely intervenes. So the cycle continues. We don't want to talk about this, but we have to. This is a reality that's often overlooked. It's not easy to hear, but it's important to understand, because only then can we create a change. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were doing something helpful or good, but realized later on that it might have been more about you than the person you were helping? I know I have. We live in a system where it's easy to do something good because you get good feedback, you get praised, and it feels good, without questioning if it's actually helping, and I didn't want to fall into that trap again. That's when I met Mimpy. She's the spokesperson for the orphanage, someone who knows the children's lives inside and out. Having done a similar project to me when she was my age, she understood the struggles, the hopes, and the realities. Mimpy welcomed me with warm and open arms and introduced me to the children. And her support and kindness opened the door to deeper connections and allowed me to see the resilience and dreams that each child carries with them every day. Over the past months, I spent many afternoons at the orphanage, sharing moments that went far beyond any project. We played games, I helped with homework, and I even helped tidying up their living spaces. But these weren't just tasks. They were opportunities to be present and to build trust. The teenagers I spent the most time with, between 16 and 18 years old, had a bond so strong it was impossible not to notice. Their laughter filled the room, not because of me, but because they had become their own family, supporting each other through anything. One day, I organized a jewelry design workshop where I opened up the space for questions, curiosity, and creativity. From these drawings, I crafted for each jewelry piece a story, a dream, a value shaped by the children themselves. The funds from selling these pieces go back to the orphanage, but not to cover for food or for clothes. Instead, they support special experiences, cooking classes at local restaurants, sewing workshops led by skilled seamstresses, and other hands-on activities. But these programs aren't just for learning skills. They're for experiences, for joy, and for memories. This project became much more than just jewelry. It became a way to honor their stories on their own terms. During one of our sessions, I gave the children a few simple prompts, like, tell me about a time you felt loved, or who makes you feel like you belong. Then I asked them to draw something that captured that memory. One child drew a person standing in the middle of 4 open arms, with a glowing pink heart in their chest. They told me about the time they were really sick, and one of the ibus at the orphanage kept singing songs and feeding them soup, while the older kids made him a card with a heart on it. They said they felt safe from every direction, like love was surrounding them. That drawing inspired a pendant with soft, rounded edges and a rose quartz stone in the center, to carry the same sense of warmth and protection. Another drew 3 smiling figures sitting together under a tree, one holding a book, a ball, and a drawing. They talked about their 2 best friends and how they always sit under the same tree in the orphanage, sharing their dreams and their hopes. One wants to be a dancer, one a chef, and one a teacher. That story became a pendant with 3 pearls nestled together, symbolizing friendship and shared growth like a chosen family growing strong together. Another design was a doodle of a rock. That child told me about the day they found a rock shaped like a star in the grass. They kept it in their pocket and everything started going right. "I think it gave me luck," they said, or maybe it did because I believed it would. Now, that drawing became a small silver pendant engraved with the words, "You're my lucky star," a reminder that the smallest things hold the most magic. Each piece we created came directly from the children's drawings, memories, and dreams, and the jewelry became a way to carry their stories out into the world. I brought these designs to Bali Turtle Workshop, where I spent many afternoons over the past year. But what started as a workplace quickly became something much more. There I met Cynthia, Ketut, and Johnny, and over time, they became my family. After a few visits, they began introducing me as Cynthia and Johnny's daughter and Ketut as my uncle. Every time someone came into the workshop, they'd say, "This is our daughter," and I'd call them Ibu, Pakcik, and Mom. And Papak. Mom, Dad, and Uncle in Indonesian. We spent hours laughing, creating, and holding space for each other. Their presence and kindness became the heartbeat of my project, and I couldn't be more grateful for them. And if you ever have the chance, I highly recommend going and visiting them yourselves so you can feel that warmth too. But my project didn't end there. I wanted to build something here, something lasting, a space where people could create, connect, and share their stories. So my classmate Sierra and I decided we'd combine our projects and co-create a jewelry studio right here at Greenstone in the High Hub. It's not finished yet, but it will be by the start of the next school year. And when it opens, it will be a space for everyone: parents, teachers, friends, and anyone who wants to visit and create and explore their creativity and be a part of something meaningful. We also led a parent jalan-jalan to the John Hardy studio, where we saw the full process of jewelry making from start to finish and shared a beautiful lunch together. A day full of conversation, compassion, and connection. Now, I want to thank Ibu Andina, the IHUB and the GSBA. Thank you for spending so many hours helping Sierra and I bring this dream to life. Without you, the jewelry studio wouldn't exist. To Peck Benjamin, Ibu Jess, Ibu Kate, and Brian, thank you for supporting all of us with patience and care. And thank you to my mom. Thank you for being there for every single part of this journey. You've helped me realize that I'm more than I ever thought I was capable. Thank you for reminding me to keep going, even when things felt heavy. We often talk about helping people, but real help doesn't feel like charity. It feels like mutual respect. Real help doesn't just hand something over. It invites people in. These kids don't need saving. They need listening. They need chances. And they need to be seen as more than just their circumstances. Enough is enough with a system that separates. Enough with stories that start and end in pity. These stories are still being written. But if we pay attention, we might just find that the most valuable thing we can give, more than money, more than things, is connection. Thank you.